All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. And by the way, congratulations to Arsenal fans. They showed Chelsea boys what soccer or football meant yesterday by defeating them 4 goals to 2. But that's, of course, what you get when football is well funded. And that's our next topic for the moment. How do we go about funding Nigerian football? In just a moment.
And of course, Clear, you're just lucky. Kingsley is not here this morning. You could have gotten a very nice reaction to this statement you made about Chelsea. All the same, right?
I am Arsenal.
You will hear that right now.
All right.
Okay, right now we have in the studio here Nelson Ene is Executive Director, GTI Asset Management Trust Limited, and Project Director, the Nigeria Football Fund, TNFF. Let's start from there. TNFF, what is it all about?
Good morning. Thank you. TNFF is the Nigerian Football Fund. It's actually a novel initiative, private sector initiative, to pool funds to intervene in our sports sector. And the focus of the fund is the business aspect of our sports, which we believe requires a lot of funding now to revive that area of our sports. So the TNFF is trying to build a football economy in which football and other sports will be able to contribute significantly to the gross domestic product of the country, just like it's obtainable in other developed countries in the world. So what we are trying to do is to ensure that our sports sector, football and other sports, become very vibrant, well-funded, to create liquidity in the system and to also create some level of stability for growth, to ensure that a lot of these talents we have in this country, they are properly harnessed to bring glory to Nigeria and also for their own socio-economic benefits too.
You talked about business aspect of sports.
Yes.
I don't get it. So what aspects of sports will this fund be, targeted at?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, the fund is going to be targeting the business aspect of sports. If you look at sports, just like the Arsenal you mentioned now,
yeah,
and the match you watched yesterday,
yeah,
I can see your excitement about that match. But beyond what you see on that field is a whole big business component of that match going on.
Okay.
The sports betting industry, they are taking their bets, and billions and trillions of dollars are exchanging hands. What about the gate takings? You can see all the electronic billboards, a lot of adverts running on those boards. You in Nigeria can watch a match in England live and direct, and I'm sure you're not watching the match for free. You're also paying to watch the match. So if you look at that, that's the business component we are talking about. There are basic standard business principles running sports all over the world, and Nigeria is here to catch up with that system of running our sports. Our sports is basically government funded now. It is more of social than business. But beyond socials, sports is both social and business. And it is that business area that we have not actually focused on in this country that this fund is trying to focus on, because there's quite a lot of value that even a lot of investors, yourself inclusive, and other investors in the country, institutions, can benefit from returns on investment in the sports sector. Let me go back just for the benefit of listeners. If you look at the Olympics we watched today, some people are tempted to think that it is the government that is funding the Olympic movement. The Olympic movement does not collect any money from government. What they do, they focus on the business component of sports, which evolved more as social. And after a while, when they were finding a lot of problems trying to organize the events, in fact, the Olympic got to a point where they felt the Olympic has completed its life cycle and it was going to go into extinction. And they had to sit back and look at the old process, the old approach, which is what we are trying to do now. Nigeria needs to sit back, look at the old sports sector, look at the old architecture of the sports sector, and see whether we are operating in line with international best practices when it comes to professional sports and sports business. And that is where the real money is. The Olympics generate a lot of money, and it is even from the money they generate after the Olympics, they have the Solidarity Fund that even distribute money to all national Olympic committees all over the world. Over 200 national Olympic committees we are talking about. It is from the fund, the money the Olympics generates, that they distribute to those NOCs, and also the continental bodies, because each continent has a body that is also connected, affiliated to the
how will
Olympics.
this fund change the fortunes of Nigerian football?
Yes, again, this fund, what we are trying to do is to pull these funds to intervene in the infrastructure. Like the match, let me just use the match yesterday as a strong case study for this fund. If you look at the kind of facilities you have in that stadium, if you look at the whole approach, the system, the technology driving everything, you discover that it requires a lot of funding. So the essence of this fund is we pull these funds together, intervene in that critical aspect of our sports, deploy the funding to upgrade all our infrastructures, deploy the funding to upgrade our media and broadcasting, because media and broadcasting plays an important role in football. You could watch Arsenal. Did you watch any Nigerian league that was played yesterday? You're so excited about Arsenal.
No.
It was not on air. And that is a huge component of revenue that the country is missing. Because in sports business, TV rights carries almost about 60 to 70% of the revenue generated. So if we are even taking it just from that simple case study, you can see what we are talking about. That is football. What about basketball? What about wrestling? We all watch WWE. WWE is not just there for the excitement of the wrestlers fighting on the ring. We watch the UFC. We watch the NBA. Behind all those activities you see on TV, there's huge business component behind driving it. That is why those athletes are highly paid. They are not paid from government contributions or from donations or grants.
How much are we looking at now in terms of, yes?
In terms of the funding, our initial offer is 5 billion, but it's an open-ended fund. Naira. 5 billion naira is an initial offer. We are actually looking at hundreds of billions of naira, because a lot is required to intervene in our professional sports to activate those components of revenue. And I must say this, when I say hundreds of billions, it looks as if the money is so huge, but I know we have the capacity to raise that kind of money in this country. Studies have been carried out to see how much Nigerians even pay for just sports betting in this country. We are talking of hundreds of billions. Nigerians are the ones paying that. Studies have also revealed that even just the little boy who is going out to viewing centers to pay 100 naira also runs into several billions of naira in a year. So meaning that the country has the capacity. We have a youthful population of about 140 million. If we go by the estimation of our population of 200 million, the youths comprising 70%. These youths are not just youths. Nigeria, based on natural comparative advantage, has been blessed with a lot of talented youths when it comes to sports, not only in football, in athletics, in wrestling, boxing, and other sports. What this fund is trying to do, how do we create job opportunities for all these youths? We are talking about youth restiveness all over the world. If you go to America, you go to Europe, they've used sports to engage a lot of the youths. Not only engaging them by keeping them busy, sports has also made a lot of difference in their lives. And that is why today, in professional sports, the sports employees are the highest paid in the world. What they earn is unimaginable. They earn that money because of the business behind the whole sports, system. So that is what we are trying to bring to Nigeria. If you look at the last Olympics, just to buttress the level of talent we have in this country, athletes of Nigerian descent representing other countries won more medals than the one won by Nigeria as a country. What does that tell us? That means we have a lot of talents we need to pay attention to.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, now, when you talk about raising this fund, you talk about 5 billion naira for a start, and of course, there's a huge...
Because it's an open-ended
fund.
Yes.
Really. How do you intend to raise this fund? Looking at, when you give example with Olympics and some, European League and the rest of them, these are sports activities that are taking place in developed countries who must have gotten the basics of life and are more or less into trying to make life much more better. Here, people are struggling to really make ends meet and trying to make up and trying to come up with this kind of initiative right here. Wouldn't that be so much of a of a problem to you guys as you move on?
No, we don't think so.
No.
Because the same struggling people are the ones paying their subscription to watch the EPL.
Right.
The same struggling people are the ones still going to viewing centers to pay 100 naira to watch football.
Yeah.
It's all about value creation.
Okay.
When you create value, people will pay for value.
Talk about the value there. How do you intend to do that so that people can now pay more for the value?
Yes, the value, like we have said, the first step is
Because we want to watch now at least Nigerian League and whatever.
the first step is to raise the funding to intervene in putting the basic infrastructures in place to drive these revenue components. Because if those infrastructures are not in place, you can't generate the revenue. Again, the funding is also going to focus on talent development. We have the talents, but we need to develop them to get to a level where their performance can be appreciated by people and they are willing to pay for them. Two, we have to also improve
Local talent or foreign
local talent. Yes, it's local talent. The fund is focusing on developing our local
Are you
football
going to go
economy.
we used to have a program catching them young, right from either secondary school or primary school stages. At what stages are you targeting?
We are going to be looking at the developmental stages from a very youthful level. And we are also going to use a lot of incentives to drive that process. It's about motivation and incentive. If you incentivize these people properly, you get the best out of them. What about the technology component? The technology component is huge, and we also need to invest in technology. Technology drives the old system. Again, we also need to use this fund to intervene in the human capital development. Human capital development goes beyond the talent playing the football or acting on the field. There's a huge backroom personnel that is required to be trained and retrained over time. We're talking about coaches. We are even going to start having what you call football sports video analysts.
Okay,
so it requires quite a lot of training. These are people, so if you look at the value chain of what we are talking about, there's a huge multiplier effect, spillover effect on various sectors of the economy, tourism, the aviation industry, the merchandising industry, textile industry. So you find out that quite a lot can be achieved with this, and a lot of jobs are going to be created, not only in the sports sector, even in other sectors, you have in developed countries.
There was a time in this country when Adidas used to be the sole, footwear for sportsmen and women, and then Nike came up. Now you have a lot of brands. It would be nice to also have a brand, a homegrown brand.
Homegrown brand to support our sport.
To support us at sports. But that aside, we wish to respond to it. I'm like, why football? Already, football has substantial attention, both from the private sector and even from government. There are other aspects of sports. Athletics, for instance, requires funding. It requires development. What's the push for football and not athletics?
Like I said in my intro, we called it a football fund, and I said by extension to other funds, to other sports, meaning the fund is not restricted to only football. It's also going to other sports can access the fund. But like we said, if you look at sports generally, all sports have their social aspects, they all have their business aspects. Even tennis you watch today, there's a huge business component of tennis, basketball, wrestling, boxing. Imagine the kind of money a boxer in the world, just a fight in one night, earned $300 million. People should even be asking themselves, who paid for that Who paid that $300 million? No government pays it. No government will pay any individual $300 million. But somebody earned $300 million in just one day. How? Because the sports experts and the business people sit down to look at the fight and look at it purely, not just two people fighting on the ring. They look at it purely from the business perspective. What is the business? How many eyeballs who want to watch this boxing contests all over the world beyond that venue. So it is not limited to the number of people sitting in that venue. That is just the
and that's a
field.
big gap missing.
And you see billions of people wanting to watch that boxing fight. Then they go for pay-per-view. Imagine if you have 1 billion people watching that fight, and the 1 billion people are just paying $1 as pay-per-view. That means only from TV rights, they raised $1 billion. So if they are paying that boxer $300 million, you can see that even the promoters of that fight still have something to go home.
Nelson, I would want to give maybe 15 or 20 seconds to, talk to sport enthusiasts in Nigeria about this fund.
Okay, yes,
Just
to the sports enthusiasts and also to prospective investors. When I mean prospective investors, we are talking of individual Nigerians who can invest in this fund. We are talking of institutions, public and private institutions. We are talking of high net worth investors. We are talking of the billionaires in this country. This is a very organized platform with serious corporate governance structure for the management and deployment of this fund. For all of them to invest in this fund, it's a minimum of 100 million naira for the fund. Then you can to access this fund, you can reach us on our website, tnffgti.com.ng. Telephone number 09082999291. And you can also come to our office, number 4, Tinubu Street, Central Business District, Marina, Lagos. So you can reach us in any of the platform, or just go to Google and just type the Nigerian Football Fund.
Okay,
you actually
thank you.
gain access to that website, and you can now download the form, fill the form, and pay online for the subscription.
Thank you so much, Nelson Ene. Of course, we thank you so much for your insights talking about football fund in Nigeria and then the Nigerian Football Fund. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow for another edition. My name is Yusuf Dadabosum. Bye-bye.
I am Claire Adilabwa Abdul Razak. Always remember to join us in the fight against rape and breakage. From all of us here, GMN Production Group. Have a good day.